Okay.
We are now streaming live on YouTube, and Terrence, I'm about to make you the host. Okay.
Who is the phone, the 270?
Oh yeah, we're good. That's
Jim
Glenn.
Jim Glenn.
Okay, so we're fine.
Next month, I hope to be on the computer so you can see me.
Okay, well, good to see you. Let me, I guess first thing is to call the meeting to order. At least by my count, we do have a quorum. Because Terrence, you confirm that?
I do confirm, and notice was sent out.
Okay. And then good morning to all of you, and welcome to this monthly meeting of the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights. First item of business, is we have any public participation?
No.
Okay. So we'll move directly on to is the consideration and approval of minutes of the meeting held on April the 15th, 2021. Those minutes were in your packet. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes, or if there are any corrections or additions to those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. The minutes be approved as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, well, good. So we next move to the section reports. First up is the executive director.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I wanted to run through this pretty quickly. There haven't been any budget changes. I did want to give a couple updates on the positions, just because I know in the written report, it's a little more vague. We had a few offers for a staff attorney and an investigator that had some challenges. The staff attorney who was offered had to go, had some medical things come up. And so we're still figuring out if they can make it back for the next hiring date, which would be June 1st. And then the enforcement officer was offered and then had something else, had a competing offer that they took. We have talked through it, and we've done some more interviews, but we have backups ready for both of those that we're talking through. So that should be settled. I just wanted to update you all on where that was. And then Brittany Cook, who has been doing a little bit of everything around here. This is her last commission meeting. She's not here right now. She's on her honeymoon in Costa Rica.
Wow.
Well, yeah, everybody's enjoying some fun. I'm also going to talk about the finance piece, sort of, because Brandon's in Ecuador. So, but this is, she's going to be watching this later for minutes purposes, but she is going to do more in her therapy field. And so something came up, and so she's able to do that, what she's trained in and what she's really good at. We haven't done this since a lot of you have been on the board, but we sometimes will have staff spotlights, and I wanted this meeting to spotlight Aaron Spalding. I'll talk a little bit more when we get to the case age and the changes that we've made, but Aaron has done a lot with really helping us get a lot of things done. But in a call that I had with HUD the other day, they started the call by talking about how appreciative they were of Erin and a lot of the things that she's been able to do working with them, especially given the fact that our HUD manager or whatever has changed 3 times in the past 5 months. But they wanted to talk about how throughout all of that, our communication has been really consistent, and we've really been good at responding to what they needed. They also were very surprised to learn that we only had one housing investigator, and especially since Cedric left, that was Aaron. And so they also just wanted to talk about how anytime they had something that came up, they want in her emails or phone calls, she was to the point and very specific, and it's been easy to work with us. So that just hats off to Erin, and just wanted to thank her for all the work that she's been doing, especially with us being so short staffed and we have investigators out on leave. Just being able to not only keep the work moving, but to have us in a good position right now in terms of closing out cases, which is really important, and just very thankful for her work and her team's work and us in the greater mission. As far as training and professional development, this week, or the end of last week, Brandon and I did a notice of funding opportunities training through HUD, which is to help us understand our requirements as grantees, but also lets us know some of our eligibility for other grants and funding. I've been talking with our now former HUD manager, and we've been finding a few other potential grants to apply for. And so that will be something that we're looking into in the next few months. There are 2 specifically that could be beneficial if we can qualify for them. There's still some question of if our agency qualifies, but we're working through figuring that out. There was a National Fair Housing training forum about how fair housing laws can be used to challenge discriminatory appraisals. And that was just a really good and interesting training on hidden bias in housing practices. And that is something that enforcement staff as well was able to attend. And that's something to really inform future work, especially in doing the investigations and seeing how some bias practices could be seen in housing. As far as an agency, we are planning some trainings on really inclusive practices. The first one I wanted to talk about, and I will, if you all have questions, I will pass it to Commissioner Worth after this, but I talked to him about expanding some of our knowledge in practices that he's learned with his organization that could be really beneficial to our work here. They have a specific certification that no other office or organization in Kentucky has. And after we're done with this, I do want him to kind of explain what that means, because it's something that I found very interesting and something that I think could be really helpful for us internally as an agency. On a similar note, however, we're putting together some training on interpretation and implementation of the Supreme Court's decision in Bostock and President Biden's executive order around orientation and identity in discrimination complaints. There is some guidance that was given from HUD, and I'm working to get some other guidance and then putting together a training or finding a training that comes from those departments or those agencies, just because we want to make sure that we are doing things in the proper manner and that we're being consistent in how we address those cases, but making sure that we do what we're supposed to be doing as an agency. For outreach, I'm excited to talk about this piece just because in a larger scheme. I've been talking to Commissioner Rabbi about a series of conversations around discriminatory issues in our community. And the idea is to have different talks in different parts of Kentucky that bring to the table perspectives, solutions, and commitments from different decision makers and groups about change and things that need to happen. And I was talking to Commissioner Rabbi about doing the inaugural conversation around some of the actions, really anti-Semitism in around UK and in Lexington that he has witnessed firsthand. And I was thinking that could be a good start to doing this long term in different communities and having people from those communities come and speak of their perspectives, but also possible solutions and changes, and just having everyone be heard, but allowing that to grow into different communities. And it won't be the same topic every community. It's something that might be pertinent to that community or understanding a larger scheme of things that are going on. And so the inaugural one will be through or in, well, virtually in Lexington. And I look forward to sharing that with you all, as well as soliciting ideas for issues or communities that you all think, especially in your own communities, to say we want to have a conversation around whatever the issue might be. As a smaller update, we talked before about how we would handle mediations in the interim as we try to find a staff attorney. And I just wanted to let you all know that we are moving forward in that. At the time this was put together, there were 2 that were completed that settled for around $9,000. And there are 5 more that are being scheduled in the next few weeks. And so that's something that we haven't fallen off. We've actually been able to keep moving and do more and have worked out a way to keep that process going so we don't leave anyone out. But the bulk of what I wanted to talk about is really just the great work that people have been doing. And just so many people in the agency right now are doing so much, especially with us being as short-staffed as we are. This past week, I was asked to have a review conversation with HUD, and our housing numbers were giving them concerns about our ability to meet the contract. And so what they don't know is how hard people here have been working to make sure that we are able to meet those numbers, and not only meet them, but beat them. And so when looking at the official numbers and having a conversation with Aaron, we were able to see that our concerns about meeting the contract are now conversations about how much we can beat the contract by. And so I was very happy to shift that conversation with them from concerns to finding ways that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing and that we're meeting our obligations. And so there are a few cases that they want to review for eligibility on which year they count for. But even with that consideration, we are still on track to meet and surpass our contract. And so again, that's a big thanks to everybody, because that's every unit has to work together to get to that point. And to that point, the biggest thing I wanted to cover was the team effort and what we are doing. I wanted to talk a little bit about enforcement and legal helping push our case age down and our caseload in general. And so we talked 2 meetings ago about some of the changes in practices and procedures on how we were trying to address case age and look at some of the older cases and move things forward. And so I wanted to show just a visual of what that looks like with some of the case age going down. And overall, in employment, you see that drop. Public accommodations, the PA cases are a little harder. And I can speak to that, or Aaron can speak to that on why those do fluctuate or go a little, trend a little higher. But overall, we're doing a lot better job of addressing case age. And so the PC panels will soon, that we have coming up, will soon cut that number down in the public accommodations, as well as we should be dropping even more in employment very soon. And the biggest one I wanted you all to see was the case age by enforcement officer, because I think when you read the numbers, it's not as clear how big of a shift that really is, especially in such a short amount of time. And so the case age by enforcement officer is trending positive, in a positive direction, meaning that it's going down. And I'm just very proud of the work put in by Wanda, Chad, Addie, Claudia, Aaron, everyone just really buckling down and bringing those cases forward and helping us drop these case ages, because that's something that's really important, that we're able to get to these cases. And we're going to continue to work to tweak the process to make sure that we are still addressing these, but also finding even better ways to get to a resolution sooner. And so this is a big thanks to everyone in enforcement, everyone in legal, and really I just wanted to thank everybody on the team here for being able to do this work and do such a good job with all the challenges that we faced. The last thing I'll just share is we are moving back into the office a little more consistently. I talked to some people from the governor's office about our healthy at work initiatives, and with vaccinations and with our space and our size, we are able to be back in person a little more often. As it stands right now, the units are shifted. Some are doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full day, and then some are doing Tuesday, Thursday. It kind of depends on the unit size, but we are able to be back in the building, and which will also help with some of these processes and getting our case age down and really just moving the work forward. Any questions?
No, just hats off to the group for all the great work.
Thank you.
I have a question, Terrence. And you tell me, Chairman Burse, if I'm going out on a different road, you pull me back in if this is not the place. But I will tell you this: I have over 100 employees at Children's Home of Northern Kentucky. I've been employed at Children's Home of Northern Kentucky since 2010, and I guarantee you, I have never experienced such a challenging year as I've experienced this past year in terms of employee morale and employee accommodations. And I think I'm not alone. I think if you talk to many employers, it has just been a very daunting period, even to attract and retain talent. So I'm hearing loud and clear Terrence's kudos toward his team, and I love that. I'm accustomed to beginning every one of our board meetings at Children's Home with wow moments, and I love starting with that spotlight on Aaron and what's going right. I think it's a great way to begin meeting. But here's my question specifically. I'm very cognizant of the fact that at my organization, it is beautiful to have those kind of accolades and affirmations for employees, but is the office able to do things in turn more than simply words for those high achieving employees? So at my place, for example, we have merit bonuses that the CEO can award to employees who are going above and beyond, and we try to use those generously. Is there any similar effort in your office, Terrence?
So we're not allowed to do that. We also don't have a budget for that, but I want to, especially for the spotlights and people who just to recognize and thank people for their hard work. I am never against doing something outside of words. I was actually going to text Erin after this about something I wanted to do for her. But one thing that I'd like to do is just find something people like, be it their favorite snacks or whatever, and putting them in their office just as a small thank you. Just we can't necessarily do anything like a bonus or any type of appreciative show like that, but we can do something small. Even I personally would like to do it myself just because I'm so thankful for everybody really, and so want to really show appreciation. And one thing I want to do as we move back into the office is have more of an appreciation potluck or something, just to thank or get everybody lunch or something, just thanking people for the hard work, because it's been a struggle. I started in a pandemic, and it's been really nice to see people coming together and do hard work when there are hard challenges. And so that's definitely a great question, and something we do need to do more of is thanking people in multiple ways.
Well, I can only bring my experience. I'm so brand new to this commission, and I have a lot to learn. So please forgive me if I'm asking naive questions. But I just know in my life that the organizations that I've been affiliated with, the boards have played an instrumental role in helping the employees in the organization to appreciated, that they're noticed, that they're needed, and that's certainly more than simply the job of the executive director or the CEO. So just know, Terrence and Chairman Burse, I'm all in for anything that I can do personally to express our gratitude to the staff. I'm a big fan of Jim Collins in the Good to Great movement. And Jim Collins, as you recall, says the very first stage for a successful organization is making sure that the right people are on the bus. And that question has to come first, even before you ask where the bus is going. So kudos to Erin and to Terrence and to the entire staff there.
Thank you. And just as a Commissioner Cheney actually reached out yesterday with a similar question, and I'm putting out a question to ethics to see what is allowable as far as any type of reward system or any of that. So I will let you all know as soon as I hear back on that.
Okay, I think to Commissioner Worth, your discussion questions is right on time and quite appropriate in terms of talking about things that we need to do. I think it's worth, Terrence, is pursuing further in terms of what are the limitations in regards to what state employees can do. I think as it relates to commissioners, I don't think there are any limits in terms of what we as commissioners can do. I think in terms of utilizing state resources for the purpose of doing that, there may be some limitations, but we need to better understand that. So Terrence would expect you to come back with a report on what can be done. In addition to that, I think it may be worth having additional discussions with Commissioner Worth and Commissioner Cheney around ideas that they may have, so as to develop something, at least a template that we as a commission can discuss and come to some conclusion in terms of things that we can do, or should do, or ought to think about doing.
I agree, Chairman Burse. I just know that right now I'm in a predicament where I am struggling to find talent for childcare workers, for example, in our 5 residential buildings. And our board has been taking a very hard look. We've even brought on a consulting company to help us identify what we need to do in terms of employee compensation and benefits to attract the talent that we need to accomplish our mission. And I just am I feel some empathy with this commission and with Terrence, noting that you're short-staffed, and how that can affect not only the accomplishment of mission, but staff morale for the people that you have currently retained.
Right. Okay. Are there any other questions for Terrence and his report? Okay, hearing none, let's move to the budget and personnel. And I assume you're going to do this, Terrence?
Yes, so you have the budget and personnel report before you. If you have any questions, I can try my best to answer them. As I said earlier, Brandon's in Ecuador enjoying the sunshine. So,
Why don't you share, you had, I think Commissioner Cheney had raised a couple of questions on a couple of the items, is to share with the rest of the commission her two questions and what the response to those two questions are.
so let me go find her questions.
Well, her first one related to the line item where the cost of the external audit is in that line item. She asked whether the amount was because of the increased amount, or was that associated with the audit itself? And I think the answer to that is yes, isn't it?
Yes. So she asked about, I was trying to remember the item line number. 3.
E150.
Okay. So yeah, E150, it would be our final update to that one. But she asked if the increase was related to the forensic audit and covering those professional services. And so that is where that item came from. She asked another question around, I think it was E399 other, and if that could be further defined. And I'm going to check with Brandon on that one. I'm not positive, but I'm about 90% sure this is something that Brandon and I discussed on how we were using our program or our training or programming money from HUD. That was an approved expense for our social media contracting, for awareness for the housing campaigns. And after a conversation with HUD, we shifted where it was categorized from one place in the budget to the other. And now moving it to this part, it's going to be what was sent to that contractor who did that work. It was just shifting it to where it was going to be taxable for them. And so it was moved over. And I think this is where that one was, but I will double check with Brandon when he gets back. But those were her two questions.
Okay. Are there any other questions regarding the budget and personnel report? Hearing none, let me make certain that after Terrence started his executive director report, that Commissioner Litvin joined the meeting, so he is also present. So we'll make certain his attendance is recorded. If there are no further questions on budget and personnel, we'll move to the enforcement unit report. Aaron Spalding.
Hello, everybody. Just a few things before I go over the cases. On the case index, there is one case that is listed as an MPC closure, but is actually an administrative closure. The CRC is correct. It was just incorrectly listed on the case index. And that is case number 2124-H, HUD number 04-21-5061-8. The case name is McKenzie versus Woda. That is an administrative closure and not an MPC. And we have provided the correct list for the official book too.
Aaron, it is closed, right?
Huh?
It is closed.
It will be voted on today to be closed.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
It's just it's not an MPC closure, it's an administrative closure. And then we do have two pools on the list, and that is the Leva versus Gene B. Glick Companies and Coffee versus Gene B. Glick Companies. HUD has asked us to pull those so they could review them before we close them.
You repeat those two again?
Yes, the case numbers 2122-H and the HUD numbers 04-21-5060-8. The complaint name is Leva versus Gene B. Glick Companies, Inc. And the other one that's being pulled is the companion to that, 21-H04-21-5068-8. And the case name is Coffee v. Gene B. Glick Companies, Inc.
Okay.
And then are there any questions on any of the cases that I can help or answer?
Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? Okay, hearing none, we need a formal motion to approve and accept the recommendations on those cases. Motion for any commissioner?
So moved.
About a second?
Jim Glenn, second.
Okay. It's been moved and second that the case recommendations from the staff be approved and accepted by the commission. Are there any additional further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Maybe easy to raise your hand. Okay. That is in fact approved.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. Our next report is the Education and Outreach Unit. Marianne Taylor is going to give that report.
Good morning, everyone. You do have that report in your commission book, starting on page 86 and finishing up on 89. Are there any questions that you have regarding that report? Okay. I just want to very quickly say it was good to be back in training mode again from our department. For myself personally, Juan's been training all along and speaking on radio shows, but I had the opportunity to train the Meade County Sheriff's Department yesterday on sexual harassment. And in that training, we had 35 participants, and some of them were actually EMTs as well as volunteer sheriffs and deputies and whatnot, and all of their administrative staff. So it feels good to be getting back into the education outreach training mode as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And if there are no questions, I thank you all very much.
Well, one question, if I can ask you, Miss Marianne.
Yes, sir.
Do people across the state approach you to come and do these type of trainings, or do we reach out to offer the trainings to, individual companies or?
We don't target companies or reach out in that way, but we do still have folks that contact us and suggest that a company be trained, or lately they've contacted us to train in different ways. I've had the opportunity now to work with 2 different groups, just in sending them information that they are including in their local blogs and on their websites. There's an exciting new training coming up for high school juniors and seniors, just on what their rights are in the workplace, but that's going to be in a digital format on a blog post. The same with some housing opportunities. I did a housing training with the Realtors Association down in Owensboro. And as a result of that, I've had some phone calls with requests for information to put on individuals' websites. So we're getting out that way. It's been more digital and more virtual, but we are still getting the word out.
That's great. What can we as commissioners do in our various areas to kind of further this cause, to bring more of what you do to our area?
Just call and ask and say, we need you to come down here And usually when we know that there's going to be a training in your area, I try to shoot you an email and let you know that we're there, or that we're at least going to be online with someone that's in your district or your area. And then you can kind of put your name and face in behind it. I know for the other commissioners that Commissioner Thomas always, when he can, makes it a point to stop in on our trainings when we're in that area. And that's very helpful. It goes a long way when you guys actually show up or make a call, or just tell your friends that, hey, the commission's going to be in the area. You know, particularly if it's an open meeting, it would be a good thing for your friends and neighbors to come. So
I would think that I would think that with our police departments, sheriff departments, various fire departments, such and forth, that this would be much needed now in the environment that we're living in.
It is, and pre-pandemic, we were actually training at their conferences so that we could hit a room of 100 at once. So I've actually had that opportunity to do police officers and sheriff's departments in their state and regional conferences. So that way we're not necessarily traveling all over the state to do it, but we're still getting to as many folks as we can. The same with realtors associations, and the same with HUD trainings for their Section 8 officers statewide. So, okay.
Mary Ann, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your report. You guys have been busy with trainings. I'm looking at your report on Mr. Fisher and Mr. Pena. Good job on that. Here's the question that I have. How do you and your staff yourselves avail yourselves to educational opportunities, webinars, workshops, so that you stay fresh and current and have the content that you need for these educational endeavors around the state? Could you help me to understand how you arm yourself and your staff members with what's going on in the latest in the field?
Sure, it's really a team effort. One thing is we're constantly getting emails and notices about the trainings that are available to us, and our director lets us go to them. They're virtual at this point. They've all been virtual. On a almost daily basis, Aaron Spalding sends us updates from EEOC about what cases have just, gone through the courts and what the rulings are. As a matter of fact, the most recent email that Aaron sent with that particular information in it was used in my training with the Sheriff's Department. I was able to show them, look, this is what the 5th District, voted on and settled on, a judge made a judgment on in a sexual harassment case, $45,000 case. So we have that opportunity daily because we're constantly getting updates from HUD. We're constantly getting updates through Aaron from EEOC. There have been several virtual conferences and forums, trainings, even down to technical trainings from EEOC on their database. And we've never been told by Mr. Sullivan that we couldn't or shouldn't attend those. We're actually encouraged to do that. So that's how we keep up.
That's perfect. I'm looking at the budget right now on page 25 of the report and page 26. What's the budget that you guys have access to for those kind of trainings for your team, Mary Ann? I'm struggling to identify.
Those trainings have not cost us anything. And then in each individual contract, like with the HUD contract, with the EEOC contract, there are training funds set aside. So when staff, not just my staff, but when all staff need to go, those funds are set aside specifically for training, and they have to be used as such. But I'm sure that Aaron and Terrence can give you more information about that. That's not really in my wheelhouse. But one, we've never been told no, at least I haven't. We've always been given the opportunity to get tools that we need.
Great. I was just trying to understand how the budget allowed for that kind of investment in training.
Are there any other questions? If not, I'll mute out. There you go, Aaron.
I was just gonna kind of go to Commissioner Worth. With our training, as far as what HUD gives us, what they do is they look at how many employees that we have on staff that work on housing. So then what they do is for each full-time housing employee, you get a certain allotted amount for that fiscal year for training. So like Marianne and her crew, I think they're 30% housing because they do an intake in employment, PA, and housing. We have one full-time housing investigator normally, and that's one full-time position. So I think altogether with everybody who kind of works in housing and intake and training and stuff like that, I think we're anywhere, it's somewhere between 5 and 7 full-time employees that we get training for. So any housing training or any kind of training that can help in any kind of housing investigation or housing conciliation, we can use HUD training funds to train our employees as far as housing goes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Any other questions from anybody from Marianne?
Great, thank you.
Okay, hearing none. Thank you for that report. Next report is from the legal unit, Colt Sales.
Hey, good morning. You had my report. We were able to close 4 cases this month, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have them.
Colt, any questions for Colt? Any commissioners? I have 3 or 4. On page 92 in the Showalter case where they were seeking additional counsel, how much time have we given them to come back with us with counsel to represent them?
I didn't really set a deadline on that. I mean, they've had ample time. I've been out for the last couple of weeks on leave because my wife had our second baby. So that's something that I need to follow up on. But they've had enough time.
Okay. On page 93, did the Quinn case, Lambert case settle?
Yes, Lambert settled yesterday. Quinn, that's going through the administrative hearing process right now. We've got a second telephonic pre-hearing conference coming up in June. Lambert settled yesterday. Quinn, I think it's June 18th for the Quinn case.
Okay.
Yeah, June 18th at 2:30 for a phone conference in that case. We think we're going to settle that case. So we're just we've had schedule. Of course, I just said I had scheduling conflicts, and I think the opposing counsel in that case had something on his schedule. So we pushed that out a couple of times, but we are on the road toward some sort of resolution, whether it be settlement or administrative hearing in that case.
Okay, and then on page 98 in the Mendez case, which was, I guess we've been working on mediation or something since October of last year.
Right. That case predates me, but I believe the situation in that case, the respondents are elderly and have been unable to participate in a mediation. I also think they're rural and don't have access maybe to the Zoom platform as well as, you and I. But I received a call from the complainant actually a couple of days ago asking for an update on that. So the last thing I know is that the respondents were waiting for an appropriate time to conduct mediation.
Okay. I think we're making great progress in terms of reducing the number of cases and doing some things. I think when I see big gaps in time and things continue to go for a while is what are we doing that within the authority that we have to push and close some of those cases and hold the people accountable. So
I think I've been doing a pretty good job of that.
Yeah. Just keep working them.
Sure.
Any questions from any other commissioner as it relates to the legal unit report? Okay, thank you for that. Next item, there are committee reports. There are no committee reports. Any new business?
Mr. Chair, one question on committees. Have committees been reestablished at all? Are there plans to reestablish committees?
They have not yet been reestablished. As you know, the bylaws for the organization does provide for committees, but based on at least what in my looking at historical records committees really haven't functioned in the recent past. I guess when during the period in which the commission was looking for an executive director, I think commissioners took on committee roles and it really sort of the functions of the executive director in that period of time. But hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to appoint committees and get back to at least in accordance with what is in the bylaws. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Chairman Burst, I have a question on that. Would it be prudent to have a committee established around human resources personnel in light of the fact that there's been comments made at this meeting and at the prior meeting in terms of being short-staffed and not having the human resources needed? I'm just curious if that would be helpful to Terrence and to this commission to establish one committee on the commission specifically focused on talent.
Yeah, I'm just pulling my bylaws to refresh my memory in terms of what at least the bylaws established committees are. But I do think that there is definitely a need for an HR committee that focuses on really the biggest issue. I guess what else is the vacancies and the reductions in staff that have taken place over the years, which has really led to a lot of issues and problems seen, in particular the backlog. And then in terms of retaining employees and keeping employees on board, I guess since I've come on board since January, I think we've lost, what, 4 people, Terrence, or something like that now by my count, maybe more than that. And part of that's driven by the ability to be better compensated in some other places than in working in this agency within state government.
All I can say, Chairman Burse, is that it's been one of the most helpful committees on my board at Children's Home of Northern Kentucky. We have talent from St. Elizabeth Healthcare and their Human Resources Division, and Von Lehman, which is a very large CPA firm here in Northern Kentucky. And those board members on the Human Resources Personnel Committee have been a godsend to me as CEO to help me stay apprised of compensation, benefits, benchmarking both locally through the state and nationally on the challenges with talent acquisition, especially post-pandemic. And I'm just willing to be a part of that if that's helpful. If it's not helpful, then I'll quit.
Oh, it is definitely helpful, and I can guarantee you the executive director would welcome that support and opportunity. No, I guess in the bylaws there are 2 standing committees. One is the personnel committee, but when you read what it is designed to do, it's really only looking at evaluation of the executive director and that feedback. And then a second committee was a standing budget committee. But we do have the authority to do special committees, and maybe establishing of a HR committee as a special committee with a charge is to do that. And between now and the next meeting, I will, with the executive director, will work on that and probably get some information out before the next meeting in regards to it. But I think I welcome your idea, and I think it would be great and very beneficial to the organization.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Any other new business item? I have 2. One is to talk about future meetings. We've been virtual since, I guess, at least January of this year. In terms of that, I don't know when the state government is going to change its current standing in terms of in-person meetings or whatever, but we will look at that. And it may be that our next meeting in June may very well be an in-person meeting if we can, in fact, get that done. Maybe be nice to get together with all of us in the same room, the same place to be able to do that. So we'll be working on that. The second item I have is if you have any agenda items or things that you would like the commission to be discussing, be engaged in, involved in, I request that you send those to myself or to the executive director so we can put them on the agenda to be part of our discussion in terms of where we are. You know, we're operating in an environment where there is more social consciousness, more social unrest, a lot of it rooted in terms of process and procedure, a lot of it rooted in race, a lot of it rooted in historical items in terms of what's going on. And this, to me, represents a space in which the commissioners can be very, very active. The earlier questions about the training that is being done to groups, corporation, entities across the state represents an opportunity for us to be impactful, to extend our reach beyond just the physical office in which we are located in, to be able to really make some real changes. So looking forward to probably one of our upcoming meetings is to have a broader discussion with the commissioners around the statutory authority for the commission, what we're doing, what we can do, and things that we ought to be looking forward to. And so, you know, if you got ideas or suggestions or any recommendations, please send those because we want this body to be as effective as it can be and get and be, by being impactful, bring about positive change across our state as we move forward. So please send those ideas and suggestions in.
Mr. Chair, I would totally agree with what you're saying, and I would think, and I would like to see us be in the forefront of leading the charge when it comes to civil rights and when it comes to equal rights for people across the Commonwealth. We have the talent to make that happen, all the way from when we talk about Mary Ann's group and we talk about Mr. Pena, John C.K. Fisher, and the various ones who have such a wealth of knowledge to help push this forward. And I think if we could mobilize together to make this happen, I would like to see that and be a part of that.
Okay. Any thoughts from any other commissioners on those, on what we were just talking about? Okay. With that, there are no other items on the agenda for this meeting, unless someone has something they want to bring up.
Well, I didn't get it. I guess I'm talking a lot now, but I didn't get a chance to express my thanks to Aaron Spalding, whom I've known for a long time when I served on the commission before. And Aaron has been such a wealth of knowledge for our commission and has really done an excellent job down through the years. And to see where she is now, we appreciate what she's doing, what she has done, and what she's going to continue to do, I think. And not only that, she's a good mom as well. So I think that's worth noting also. And Brittany Cook, we certainly gonna miss her from the time since I've come on the commission. She has been such a help to me in various areas. So we're certainly gonna miss her, and we wish her well.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you all. Unless anyone has something, can we have a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Is there a second?
Jim Glenn, second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Well, thank you all for a fruitful and valuable meeting. Appreciate all the commissioners, your input, appreciate what the staff is doing, and look forward to seeing you in June, either virtually or in person, depending on how things are working. So we'll be able to do that. And we got 3 or 4 things we're going to be working on in the interim. And we'll be sharing that information with you as those things are developed. So again, thank you. And you got now back the rest of your morning.